Well, again, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am super duper excited to see so many amazing senior leaders who are interested in taking their DEI leadership to the next level. Excited to see some familiar faces in this room. Wonderful to reconnect with you. My name is Brian Arao. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the president and co-founder of Brace-Based Leadership, and very delighted to be collaborating with Keith and Don to bring Evolve Your DEI Leadership Voice forward for our first cohort this coming January. Want to say that it's really you folks that Keith and I had in mind when we started envisioning what this program might be this past summer, and we really connected with one another to, ask ourselves, what do we see as being the DEI learning needs that are out there in higher education that perhaps are not being very well met or not being very well addressed? And where do we see an opportunity to be of service to some of those needs? And very quickly landed on, wanting to think about how can we help senior leaders who are invested in and committed to DEI to truly grow into that leadership. And then as soon as we sort of landed on wanting to develop that, Don joined us very shortly thereafter, and it's been wonderful, very exciting for the three of us to build this program that is designed specifically for those needs that we see so many of the leaders that we work with wanting, hungry for. And so excited to bring this offering to you all and launch this program in January. As you know, this first cohort is going to be smaller in size than we intend it to be in the future. It's going to be limited to 12 participants. And it's our hope that by the end of your time with us this morning that you'll want to be among them. So very, very excited for that. Also want to acknowledge for some of us, it's still Monday morning. Some have just teed into the afternoon here on Monday. Lots going on every college and university campus at this time of year, at this moment in world history. And we know that you all are moving with all of those things as well. And so thank you for making the time and keeping the time to be with us to explore something that we hope is going to be nourishing to you and your leadership this morning, and just invite you to the best of your capabilities, knowing that it's very difficult, especially for senior leaders to do this, is to try your best to bracket, right, all the things that we know that you have to do, all the priorities that are on your agenda, and be here with us and thinking about, how this time and how this program might be in service to you. And so with that, I want to transition to Keith and let Keith spend some time talking a little bit about the program.
Good morning and good afternoon, folks. My name is Keith Edwards. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I want to talk a little bit about the value, really conceptualize this around talking with many senior leaders and ourselves who are deeply, deeply committed. So this isn't convincing you that DEI is a good thing. But are already committed to that and then find themselves in the moment not quite sure what to say or hesitating a little bit or wondering, if I do this, will I get it wrong? And just finding ourselves in this commitment, but a little bit of fear, a little bit of hesitation for really good reasons, right? For really good reasons, as we just read the Chronicle this morning, you'll see. But we really wanted to create something that would help each of you as senior leaders release fear, gain courage, and take action. And those are really guiding us. They're not just a fun little tagline, although we love them. They're really guiding what we're creating. And so thinking about this in those three parts to help you recognize where maybe you have fear, what is leading to your hesitation, what are you anxious about, what experiences have you had, what are you anticipating, recognize it and release that. And to gain courage, and really that courage really rooted in you, not what we think. This isn't going to be prescriptive. We're not going to tell you how to do this. We're going to help you figure out how to do this because each of you is a different person, different identities, different campus contexts, different regional things, different roles, different factors, and to help you do that. So we really want to be helpful with that. One of the things I would say is this isn't Social Justice 101. And it's not Social Justice 401 either. It's really not going to be about the content. We are going to share some content, but it's really going to be about developing each of you in your DEI leadership. And we're going to help you really get rooted in your personal foundations, share some models, but not because that's what you should use, but to help you think about your leadership. How do I want to lead? What's right for me? What is my style? What is my personality? What are my identities? What's my context? How do people see me? And really come up with something that is really you. We want it to be deeply personalized. That's why there's a lot of individualized attention, and even the content that is shared will really be things for you to reflect on. And what does this mean for me? And again, not that prescriptive. So we're trying to create something of value for senior leaders in higher ed to take your DEI leadership really to the next level and really unleash you, separate from that fear, from that hesitancy, from that self-doubt, and really gain courage and move forward and be more bold in the action you're taking and the way you're leading in lots of different ways. I hope I didn't give too much away because that's Brian's job now. So go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Keith. No, not at all. It'll all build on each other, right? So, as Keith mentioned, this program is not prescriptive. Although I will also say, and how could I not say this with Dr. Keith Edwards as a member of the faculty, and I also see Dr. Kathleen Kerr in the audience as well, like there is a curriculum for Evolve, right? So we have a plan, there's a structure for this learning experience, but it is very flexible, right? And very much designed in such a way that the scaffolding of the program will be built around you in a lot of ways and what your needs are. And so the elements of this program will all be things that we are going to be seeking to really think with you as partners about how does this align? How might you utilize the different tools that we will be introducing you to or reintroducing you to in this program in your leadership at your institution and your community with your team, your students. So very much thinking about that critical application, that praxis of theory to practice. And the program is structured in 3 units. So each unit is roughly a month in duration. You can think about it that way. And each of those units has a focus, right? And so the first unit is really focused on personal foundations of leadership. And we are taking that personal foundations of leadership very explicitly through a DEI lens. And some of those things that we are going to be engaging you around are things that will be applicable even beyond DEI work, right? So we'll be thinking about ways that we can help you to clarify what your most closely held values are as a person and how those come to life in your leadership. We'll be helping you to get clear about your inner guide, right? Something that can help you to make the best possible decisions, as well as to identify the voice of the inner critic. We'll be thinking about helping you to get in touch with your strengths. We're also really going to be focusing on what your journeys have been around DEI, right? How those journeys began and where they are headed, right? And so we're going to be really focusing on those things, all of which in service to helping you to articulate a really clear personal reason for being invested in and leading for DEI. And so that's part of the personal foundations unit. After that, we're going to transition and we're going to talk about models and frameworks for this kind of leadership. And so really thinking about, what are the forms of theory, scholarship, research that are out there that are very specifically applicable to the work of senior leaders in higher education. And for example, we'll be diving into elements of the shared equity leadership model, which is a model that comes out of the USC Rossier School of Education and the American Council of Education. And we'll also be looking at ACPA's strategic imperative for racial justice and decolonization and thinking about how you can utilize a lot of the principles of that framework as a senior leader in higher education. And then after the second unit of the models and frameworks, we're going to move into the in-practice unit of this program, which is really going to be focused on partnering with you to create and move through and develop solutions to case studies for actual challenges that you are facing on your campuses. And so we'll be providing, some starting off points for some of those case studies, but then really working with you to make sure that we're not, for example, inventing a scenario that might be relevant on Tina's campus, but would not be relevant on Freilani's campus, right? So that's really one of the ways that we'll make sure that this content and this information and this wisdom is very much applicable to your work, and that you walk away with very tangible tools from this program to inform your leadership. And so those are the three, again, units, kind of theme areas that we'll be exploring over the course of Evolve. And I want to now transition to Dawn, who's going to help explain the learning modalities that we're going to be using across each of those units.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Keith, and welcome again, everybody. My name is Dawn Lee. I use she, they pronouns. And as was mentioned before, and I just want to, before I dive into the content, I want to lift up a couple things that I think are most exciting for me about what we put together for you. Is that I am currently interim chief diversity officer at a very active campus, an active student campus in the Bay Area. And so one of the things that I think is very challenging during this time, and I think is consistently challenging for senior leaders in higher education, is to have a space to talk with others who are also trying to figure out what their voice is going to be regarding DEI issues. Our intention in this space is also to give you the opportunity to think through how you want to show up, what is your DEI leadership voice, and how to be skillful in handling DEI situations when they come up. So this is really a really unique opportunity, not only for you to do the work that we're going to be offering you and however you want to engage the content, but also to be in a community, in a space with other colleagues who are grappling with very, very similar issues. Even though the issues are very unique to you and your campus, this is going to be a space for you to get that support. And so how are we going to do this, right? The content, as Brian mentioned, are three broad areas, but we're really not trying to tell you exactly, this is what you need to do and how, you need to do it. This is actually not our intention at all. Instead, you can think about the content as offerings, all right? Offerings for you to think about, to take and choose what is most relevant to you. The video content and the other pieces are offered and set up in a self-paced manner. We know you all are all busy, all right? So we've structured it so that there are some timeframes for you to do the work and review things, but it's really up to you how you want to do it, because everything will be set up in an asynchronous manner. And you will decide how to engage the material, what works in your own schedule, right? We just tell you during this time, we encourage you to have a certain number of things done before your individual coaching session and also your group coaching session. So what this looks like or can look like is that you'll probably be putting in no more than an hour a week, and including maybe 2 hours of videos a month, or you can also think about it as 1 to 2 hours of content per month, plus some work on maybe doing things like reflections. We have some other activities. That's just the bare minimum. If you want to go down the rabbit hole, we have also put together a lot of resources for you to dive in deeply, for you to think about particular issues and topics, right? So again, you can think about this in terms of no more than an hour a week, maybe 2 hours of videos every month. This is month, not a week, right? And then 1 to 2 hours of content all in total, in addition to the time that you may want to put in for reflections or other things that we're offering you. Okay. I mentioned individual coaching and group coaching, right? And the coaching pieces enable you to take what you're hearing, you're seeing in the videos, and we have also put together a workbook for you. Some of you want to or may want to follow along by doing and processing the content through the workbook. So taking what you're hearing in the videos, the work that you're doing in the workbooks, this will be an opportunity for you to have someone to process with and to, talk about whatever is coming up for you. We have specific dates already scheduled for group coaching sessions, right? However, the coaching session, the one-on-one coaching sessions will be scheduled according to what's best in your schedule within that weekly timeframe. So I don't want to get into too much the weeds, but that is what the work will look like. The individual coaching and the group coaching will look like. So I'm sure you have more questions, but let me hand it back over to Keith, who will then tell you a little bit more about our cost.
Yeah, so I just put in the chat a link to a 2-page PDF, and that includes costs and other details, which I'll talk about here in a moment, but it also includes sort of a schedule. Page 2 is kind of a schedule, so you can see some of this. And really everything that we've said is there, so you can refer back to it. One thing that I want to mention, we've really designed this for senior leaders. So we know you're too busy and you have too many things on your plate, and we don't want to add to that. So we've really created this so that it is high value and there's no busy work. So the things we're going to invite you to do are really high impact and short and not busy work. We assume you all have many advanced degrees and have a published scholarship and are reading board reports and so many other things. We need to add more to that. We are planning on offering this 3 months of content, 6 individual coaching sessions. So you'll meet with your individual coach, which will be one of the 3 of us, about every 2 weeks, one-on-one, and that'll really give you a chance to take what you're hearing in the videos and doing the reflection and really dig into it and really see what matters for you and how we can take that to the next level. And then we'll bring the group of folks together at the end of each unit about once a month. And that'll be a chance for once you've worked with the content, you've had multiple conversations with your coach to then share with other senior leaders. This was really powerful for me, and I'm curious how you're utilizing this, and I've already put this into practice. And those will be virtual, and we'll engage with you in both a large group, but also some small groups and some breakouts. We're offering this for $6,000. So it is priced for senior leaders in higher ed and designed for that. We plan to offer it for $10,000 in the future. So this initial cohort is reduced rate. I also want to mention that we're planning right now, this cohort starting in January is explicitly for senior higher ed leaders who are not the senior diversity officer. Okay, so it is explicitly for those folks. In summer-ish, we plan on offering a cohort explicitly for senior diversity officers, because it's a very different context. And so if you're worried about stepping on that person's toes, this is for you. We'll focus on the senior diversity officer then. And then in the fall, we're planning on offering a similar version for corporate and nonprofit leaders. And then we plan to circle back to senior higher ed leaders again next January or so. So that's kind of the routine that we're scoping out. I also want to say that coaching value, even though you're going to get 6 one-on-one coaching sessions, a lot of what's going to happen in the video is often what happens in a coaching conversation. So rather than talk with your coach or hear your coach walk through a visualization, you're going to get that in the video content. You're going to be able to do that, to think about it, to process it, and then really engage in it. So one way to think about it is the video content is part of a coaching conversation, and then your 6 coaching sessions are really going to give you often what clients get in 12 coaching sessions, because you're going to be doing some of that work asynchronously on your own to really leverage the impact of this. I just want to mention, if folks are ready, I mean, many of you have expressed interest and wanted to know more. We're going to sort of move to some questions here in a little bit. But in the PDF, again, all the things that we mentioned is on page 1. And then a detailed table. We reserve the right to change that. It's a work in progress, but that's what we're thinking and how we're mapping it out. I think it just gives you a little bit more detail of time. And then basically you'll be engaging in coaching once a week and the asynchronous things along the way. We are limiting it to 12. And so we already have a few people who've already committed. So if you're ready to commit, you can just email me directly, keith@keithedwards.com. Or you can just direct message me in the chat. So if you're ready to commit, just say, I'm in, send me the invoice, and we'll get you that information. And some of you might want to work with supervisors. You might want to share the video. You might to do that with others. We can move forward in those ways. So I think that's what we wanted to offer. Anything else before we move to offering some questions to these folks?
I think there's something I just realized. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we didn't plan to mention this, right? But you know, so you know what the elements of this program are. We told you what all those things are. Something I just want to highlight, right, in terms of that group coaching component is that, as we were sitting and thinking together about, what do we see the needs of senior leaders being, one of the things that we hear often from senior leaders is a sense of, it's hard for me to find and connect with other folks who are also wanting to grow around DEI leadership and who understand the challenges that are unique around DEI leadership at the senior level. And so one of the reasons we have these group coaching sessions as part of the program is really because we want to emphasize how important that community is, how important connection and network is in terms of supporting and sustaining the challenges of DEI work at the senior level in higher education. And so you'll be, not only benefiting from that chance from that one-on-one opportunity to work with a coach and talk about here's where I'm getting stuck, here's where I really need to work on as an individual, but also that opportunity to connect with one another and say, hey, what are you facing on your campus? Here's what's going on my campus. I'd really love to hear what other folks have to say about this. But there's that opportunity as well to share wisdom with one another and to build more connection with one another as well as you think about what you're going to do with the content and with the learning from Evolve in a move forward way, to know that you'll be doing that with a larger community of fellow practitioners to support the work.
I also want to add something I can't believe I didn't mention. Some of you may be wanting to do this as yourself, right? I want to do this. Some of you might be thinking, I have a work bestie who I would love to have join me in this process. Some of you might be thinking, I don't need this, but my boss does. So just think about, maybe there's someone who is on the cabinet with you who you might think about wanting to join, or maybe a colleague who has a very similar role to you on another campus who you get together and have dinner at conferences and have conversations around this. That might be another thing to think about.
And one last thing before we go into our wrap up, right? Is that if you all didn't have a chance to check out our LinkedIn's, Brian, Keith, and I are in the thick of supporting, coaching, and working with executive leaders on a multitude of issues, including what we're going to be working with you on in this experience. So what we offer you is real-time experience, real-time energy, working on these things. And I can't underscore how much experience, Brian and Keith also bring to this conversation. And so I'm excited to tap into all of that for you. So, okay, we've been talking at you a lot. All right. And we invite you to do a little bit of reflection. Also, if there's any questions, we invite you to do that. I am curious now, this is kind of like a low stakes, let us know what you think question in chat. If you can think of what we've offered you so far. I'm curious, what's most exciting? What's most generative of the things that you've heard us talk about? What's most powerful, right? What is coming up for you that, makes you like, oh, I really, really want to do this? Take a moment to let us know in chat what you're thinking of, what is most exciting and generative and powerful for what you've heard. I'm going to give you a moment to put that into chat, right? And I'm going to lift up what comes up for you in chat so that we can get some thoughts into the room, right? Thank you. Someone in chat is very excited about personal foundations. Yes. That time to do that self-work, that self-reflection. How often do we have that time, right? And the personal foundations part of the curriculum will give you that time, right? Having time to think about and to befriend our inner critic, right? Sometimes we have a adversarial relationship with our inner critic. It might show up as imposter syndrome. It might show up as self-doubt, might even show up sometimes as gaslighting. But what we will invite you to do too is to, I love befriending our inner critic and understanding what the wants and the needs are. Another person also shared an appreciation for the opportunity to have a reflective structure with colleagues, with peer colleagues, trusted facilitators, and specific opportunity to look at leadership from a DEI lens. releasing fear, gaining courage, personalized experience of a cohort of senior leaders to reflect and grow with. Another person's really interested in creating and being a part of a community. I'm going to lift up one more, and then I know Brian actually has a question that he wants to ask us, of us. One more comment: coaching and reflecting discussions on real world issues that we're dealing with on our campuses, right? This is an opportunity for you to dig in real time with what's going on. Brian?
Let me share one more before we move to Brian. Someone messaged me directly and said, I'm in. This is exactly the kind of DEI development I need, personalized and focused on practical application. Send me an invoice. So
Wonderful. Thanks, Keith.
That's very exciting. So energizing for us to hear what is exciting and generative and powerful, and really helps us to, you know, we've obviously been quite excited about this. Our sense is like we really feel like there's a need out there for this, and what we're hearing from you, right, is that okay, we weren't making that up, right? That we truly were assessing, you know, what we were hearing and seeing from folks in higher education leadership about what their needs are. So that's very affirming. Thank you so much.